Good morning. This is Norma Cowie. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the Wednesday morning Norma Talks. Now, frustration is a part of our world, that very often things don't always work like you want. The last several months, I have put out a reading for the month and been able to share that with you, even though I sometimes stumble on everything. Well, this morning, I should actually go back to last night. Last night after my tarot class, there was an upgrade on my computer. Not saying that's the issue, but when I took a picture of the reading that I have down here to send it from my phone to my email so I could put it up so you could see it, it wouldn't go anywhere. Can't find it. Disappeared. I sent it about 3 or 4 times. So I just have to accept that you're not going to see the cards that I have laid out here so diligently this morning. What I want to say, first of all, when I was thinking about this month of March and I was shuffling the cards, they were very heavy. They felt very heavy. Now I'm going back to December when I first did this. And I did make a prediction at that time by the end of March coming into April that things looked a lot lighter and a lot easier. And things can change. That's the one thing, if you are a reader, that nothing is really absolute. People's thinking changes, therefore their vibration changes. But I do want to say this, what it shows here, I'm just going to go through, seeing unfortunately we can't go through symbol by symbol, but it's about the past. It's about putting things in perspective from the past and people being irritated about that. It's like, and I agree, because I've had enough of the lockdowns and the masks and everything and what I think is a lot of news that's not exactly accurate. But it's like, so it shows that here. And it's not just me, because I take myself out of the equation. And it says the answer lies in each one of us. We have to look inside every person and really decide, what are we standing for? What are we about? What are we doing? How are we creating? All of this is very, very, very important because things are changing. It's not here yet. So we're only at what, the 3rd of March? Is that right? I don't know what, I think it's the 3rd. No, 4th. No, 3rd. Sorry, I had to look at a calendar. And but things are in the air. They are coming. And once, I think by the time we get to the 6th or the 7th of March, people will be feeling much more back in command of their lives. They'll have a much more awareness of where they're going and what they're doing. Now comes the next set, the next part. Can we let go of our frustration? Can we let go of not only the frustration, actually anger of what has gone on here? Because as we move into all the way through into around the 20s, then we've got clarity. Then we have an ability to be able to balance our lives, and we can, it's like we can see the finish line, whatever that finish line is. But the key here is, with all of this, is how our thinking works. I'm a great believer that we create via how we think, feel, and respond. But thinking is the first one. And what I look here is that we need to be open to change. We need to be open to what it is so we can decide and not just sit in our frustration and not just sit in what has gone on in the past, but rather plan for what we want in the future. The collective consciousness, which I talk about quite a bit, if we all put our minds to how we want things in the collective consciousness, that will have a big, you might call it a boomerang effect out into the world. But a lot of us don't know that. We don't think about that. We don't go and create that. And so then we get frustrated because it's not happening the way we want it. We're very segmented. That's what I'm seeing here. People are taking, so I'm going to say sides, may not be exactly like A and B, but people are taking different sides here. And the answer lies within each one of us. What are we really, really wanting? Peacefulness, respect, an ability to be able to speak our mind and debate it. The element of knowing that that our spiritual essence within us needs to be expressed and supported, and know that's very, very much a part of our humanness. Ever since time began, there's always been some form of community around a thought or an ideal. May not be exactly what you think or your perfect ideal, but there will be community around that. And that has been broken down, unfortunately. So it's like now is perhaps the time we can begin in a collective way to be able to bring things forward in a way that it is. I have two symbols I'm going to put up because, well, actually, there's three here I should put up. Three. Higher Arcana cards in the tarot. There's 78 cards in a deck. 22 of them are what we call higher secrets, higher power, higher awareness and knowledge. The first one that came up, and that's when I began to talk about change, is the Hermit, which is the answer lies within you. We always have our own answers. I always say we don't always like them. We have an answer, but we don't like it because for some reason it's not quite what we want. But this is what inspires me. There are two symbols that talk a lot about balance. Temperance and the Star. Temperance is where we balance all the different aspects together. And if you'll notice on his chest, he's got a square, which means actually that he's gone through two levels of understanding. The first is the square and the second is the triangle, the spiritual element that comes in with the learning and the understanding. But this is the one I really like. Our knowledge, our awareness. You know, this is anybody that's on earth at this time is more than likely not their first rodeo here. They probably have many lifetimes, many other different elements of experience. All of this sits within your subconscious. So what are you reaching in for? What are you reaching to get? And as you will see here, there's a lot that goes into the inner workings. A little comes out into the world because that's what we do. But it's our time, and when I see this, I'm very, very heartened because the answer lies within us, not to be reactive, not to be ticked off and mad and frustrated and kind of, but you can still protest, you can still speak up, of course, but you do it from your heart and the knowingness of the result that you really are wanting. Very often we react to something, we don't know the result we want. We need to know the result of what we want and where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. And the other symbols that I don't particularly like is the reactive ones, which is, there's three in here as well for that. One is just becoming defensive of your ideas and it's got to be this way or the way I want. This is carrying old resentments, guilt, regret, all the resentments with you. And this is reacting to everything. Doesn't get you anywhere, unfortunately. And I've lived long enough to know that that's true. So know that we are in transition. Life has transition time periods. You know, there's a reason why many people write books about how we are in every decade. How we feel, how our energy works, how things are going like that. I remember reading Gail Sheeney's first book, Passages, many, many years ago. And I found it quite interesting as she interviewed these couples throughout. And then she wrote another one, which I don't remember the date, that was about 10 years later. And of course, everyone had grown up another 10 years. And there is changes. Very often, those of us that protested and marched when we were young because of the Vietnam War, and we wanted peace and we wanted all sorts of things then, are a little elderly. For me, unfortunately, physically, I can't do that. But I do know that we must uphold within ourselves our ideal of what we expect in our communities and expect for our well-being as humans that are existing on Earth at this time. Some people have said I'm an old soul. I always said that's because I didn't learn quick enough. I didn't get it. I'm still here roaming around learning things. But it's more than that. It's because there's been a lot of experiences that I've had. And one of my first forays into learning and growing, besides the tarot, which thank goodness, I give thanks for that every day, was past life regression work. Well, now I realize that we have future lives and other lives in other planets and dimensions. I mean, we are just so much more than what we ever realized. And there's such a wonderful sense of belonging on this planet. Now, people who study with me get me to hear me say this all the time. And people who come to me for consultations, I say this. This is an emotional planet. The majority of planets out there and the dimensions and the other things that I've seen and experienced are not emotional. They're about beingness. And the love quotient is not as prevalent because love is here, this planet. That's what it's all about. Being is being. You are fully in the sense of who you are, and it's magnificent. And that's how we come out. That's how, when the soul is first created, that's how we came out. When I first ran into that, I couldn't believe it. I was expecting to experience love, and I didn't. I experienced beingness. But you see, love is a feeling. And this planet is about feeling and about emotion. And that's why the Mother Earth herself is very nurturing. She is the mother in this planet. I have run into one other planet similar, not identical. Most planets that I've run into out there when I'm working with people looking at where they've come from or their journeys, soul journeys, are more mental, are more kind of striving to do maybe a planet that where they're all about power. And this planet is not about power over, and yet there always someone tries to instill that. Now, it's been on my mind for some time to speak about Atlantis. Maybe today is a good day to begin to do that. We all know stories of Atlantis that disappeared into the sea, but there has been many books written about it. I have a son who remembers his life on Atlantis. I have a good friend that remembers her life on Atlantis. So what happened in Atlantis? And I'll tell you this. There's a beautiful set of books written, actually, and I can't remember the names of the order. There's three books, but there's one particular one, and it's called One Day or 1 Year, 1 year. And it's actually a whole 2,400 years is in that 1 year. Atlantis had a very evolved society, very spiritually based. They used crystals. They used to use crystals to monitor where people needed help. They used crystals to understand, to heal, to do things. And then the technocrats came along, and they began to move more and more into the machines. They moved more and more into how we could do that, how they could control, how they could be aware. Well, the Earth Mother comes to a point when you're not acknowledging your feelings, when you're not acknowledging her existence, will have a part to play. Plus, also, in some of the conversations I've had, was that there is other entities out there, other people, spaceship people, aliens, whatever you want to call them. And so we got caught up in a little bit of a war that was going on in a galactic way. And that's one of the reasons why people write books about it, because deep in their subconscious, they remember. But really, it was moving away from the lovingness, from the knowingness, which they called the one. They knew the one was the main essence, that was the energy behind everything, that fed everything, that gave everything. And they paid homage to that. And when people decided that machines were more important than the humans, our world collapsed. And it's something to remember that we have gone through this kind of rising up and getting away from being human and feeling and having compassion and understanding for our fellow man, that Earth in itself has cleared us out and started again. That's the wonder of this wonderful earth that we live on, is that there's just this welcoming. If you want to be here, but be part of her, acknowledge her. Now, I didn't have this when I first started. I was all up here in my head. Even to feel love was hard. It took me a long time to bring it in my body and know that it existed and was there. But I really don't want to see us go through what happened in Atlantis and happened in Lemuria. People got sidetracked. People forgot. We can't afford to forget. We need to remember who we truly are, and that what we can do consciously, we can do with a loving force. It doesn't mean that we're mamby-pamby and lie down and say, okay, do whatever. No, it means we stand up and we speak out, but we speak out with love. We speak out with peace. We speak out with a sense of knowing, of being. And so on that note, I'm going to let this go because I don't know what else I need to say. We are wonderful human beings, but let's be human. Let's talk. Let's debate. Let's have these different ideas come through. Let's find solutions. Because believe me, if we don't do that, and the solution isn't being a machine, believe me, if we don't find a solution, the Earth Mother will find it for us. Several of us, many years ago actually was doing a channeling session, and it came through I was given a certain image. I then read about it in Penny Kelly's book Robes, and it was like the same thing. She had a little bit more information that I didn't have, but it was always nice to know that somewhere else is saying the same thing. Please, people, if you're listening to this, trust yourself and love and be happy and wish your fellow man well, even if you don't agree with them. Wish them well, because what you put out comes back to you, believe me. And if you're angry and mad and frustrated, that's what you're going to find coming back. I wish you well this week. I will be back on Sunday for my Sunday thought. Who knows what I'll say on Sunday. And I really, really wish you very, very well. And I also want to thank for a couple people who have put in new subscriptions. Always appreciated. The likes, the shares, the comments, always adds to the channel. I really want to thank you, and I wish you well with lots of blessings of love. Thank you.